Welcome to the Real Construction Owners Podcast, where we interview real construction owners to help you go from being a stressed out operator to a thriving business owner. Today we have a special guest, Keith Lemoy, the owner of Build Your Sky, a general contractor in Colorado that specializes in residential and commercial rebuilds and custom builds. And you're going to learn some very valuable things today, so stay tuned. What's up, Keith? How you doing, brother?
Good morning, sir. I'm doing well. How are you?
Man, I'm doing great. I'm living the dream out here in Costa Rica. I just told you I wiped out on my kid's skateboard. I'm still bleeding, but I was like, you know what? My guests, they show up whether I hurt or not, so I'm going to be here to deliver. Thanks for being here, man.
Well, thanks for continuing with the show despite the accident, Justin.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So walk us back memory lane, man. Tell us in a couple minutes, why did you decide to start this company? Like, what's the story there? Do you have a partner? Walk us through how the inception of it happened and why.
Well, I have been a person that my entire life has been inside of construction trades, and I prefer to be a busy person. The idea of being an office person and being restricted to fluorescent lighting and computers, little bit of an antsy guy for that type of career. So I wanted to be in the trades and then learn my trades, be the best that I can. But ultimately, when I became an adult at about around 40 years of age, I knew that I had to do something, because you'll notice a trend inside of large construction corporations where they have the ability to employ hundreds of staff, but there's a definite ceiling of where you're going to scale to. You're very fortunate if you make around $28 or $30 an hour, and you're going to do a lot of extra overtime, really going to beat yourself up. So I knew that being the owner, self-employed owner, would allow me to have some control over what my salary is. I can start to choose what I'm charging and how much I'm making. I just knew that the work would have to be done. So I started off with just a truck and some tools and made some contacts with people I knew in the industry and said, I'm trying to do my own thing. I'm here to do some concrete for you. I'm here to do some foundational work or some framing for you. And that kind of turned into my clients getting me there, and the foundation would be installed and they would ask, will you stay for the framing? And then I would stay for the framing, and then they'd ask, we really don't want to look for anybody else. Can you just finish it all? So I knew then that this is the role of a general contractor, and that if I was going to stay busy in this industry, was going to compete, and I was going to have a livelihood out of it, that I would have no choice but to figure out not only how to be a good tradesman, that's one part, performing the work, but running a business is an entirely different skill set. So my first year was a bit turbulent, and I learned massively the critical errors of communication with clients, the legal parameters of building permits and licensing, testing, and then bookkeeping and keeping track of how you use your money. Those are all things that I was learning the hard way, and I learned also that other businesses will take advantage of you very quickly if you are not an intelligent person that knows how to safeguard yourself from scam efforts. And so I lost about $100,000 between some equipments and some pieces, some trucks and some pieces of heavy equipment, and had to negotiate my way through all of these legal battles, defending myself when I decided to start Build Your Sky. That's what led to it, was the hardship of being a self-employed owner that was very skilled tradesperson, but not a skilled business owner. So Bobby Perez, a master electrician that performed some of the most amazing work on my projects as my subcontractor, I decided to approach him and say, hey man, it looks like, you're dialed in, you're squared away. You're selling business, you're constantly busy, you're doing revenue, your installs are clean. Why don't we start something together where our skill sets could marry together and build a company that was very dialed in for the whole contracting experience, so we could be the one-stop shop for our client that doesn't need to go any further. And that's how Build Your Sky was started a couple of years ago.
Nice. So you basically partner with an MEP expert, mechanical, electrical guy, and you have the opposite skill set, which is the shell and the building, the framing, the concrete, that kind of stuff. And y'all used two heads combined to tackle projects. And when we were originally talking, you're taking on projects with pretty big name corporations. Walk us through some of the projects that you've done and some of the lessons you've learned along the way of doing some of those larger projects, $1 million plus projects.
Okay, great. I got two examples that I think that you're interested in hearing about, one residential, one commercial. So we'll start with the residential project, where I knew a guy who was a contractor, and he's been marketing himself as a contractor, but he was not performing ethical business. So I was brought to a project for a $25 an hour rate, where I was an hourly employee for this individual. And during that project, I'm here, but he's always gone. And he was dealing with some problems with alcohol, and he had some issues going on, but suddenly I'm abandoned at this job, and there's massive confrontations with the client project owners. And I had to kind of clean it up for myself, but I saw an opportunity there, and I said, listen, I'm not that person, and I came here hourly, but I am a concrete contractor, and I am a framing contractor, and I do have my own business. So I'm here to help him, but if this project needs to get done and he's not going to show up, I would be more than interested in completing this project. So they jumped on that opportunity and said, let's give this a shot. And I built the concrete foundation, and I solved the problems there, and that was going to be my scope of work, and we already touched about that a little bit, and it just kind of continued there. One thing that I learned very, very early is that you have an expectation of other professionals. In this case, our engineers. These people had purchased Pakistani drawings, an architect that could no longer be contacted, and they found a local Denver engineer that was willing to stamp that drawing. So he used his stamp, his liability, so that could go to the city for permitting, and that permit was issued. And the way that they drew these drawings, they built an illegal foundation. The minimum backfill in the state of Colorado was 36 inches, and their concrete foundation was also 36 inches, which meant when you did the backfill, you had nothing to frame on because it's underground now.
Yeah, so I'm curious, did this turn into a lump sum contract, or was it a cost plus contract whenever you took it over?
Yeah, this became a cost plus contract.
And for our audience, explain what that is.
So, in this instance, the client was to provide the materials as the permit owner, and each additional scope of work would be considered a change order and negotiated before that work would begin. Okay. Understanding that he was still shopping for some other guys to do some work, looking for estimates to finish siding, looking for estimates to do drywall, but first wanted us to complete that work based on the amount of professional experience he had during the concrete and during the framing. So that would be our cost plus, as opposed to a guaranteed maximum price contract, right, where we did that for one of our clients for Fresca Foods. We gave them a guaranteed maximum price, and so even if this work turns into $100,000 of change orders, your GC fee to us doesn't change. So right, that's the difference that you're looking for. Correct, Justin, or do we agree?
Yeah, that makes sense, because I build homes out in Costa Rica, and I've always just agreed to a price like, hey, this is bottom line what it's going to cost, but I'm starting to explore what it would look like if I did cost plus instead of just like a lump sum agreed price. So that answers my question. Now, so you did the residential, and you're also doing some commercial, and you're building for pretty awesome projects. Share a little insights on that.
So we currently have a relationship with food production facility that is stocking the organic shelf market for Whole Foods or Sprouts, and they're half food production and the other half of their business is commercial remodeling. So this institution, they market themselves out to other business owners such as you and I that might be interested in starting a new venture, and they're going to open a new food product line. And once that person is in contract with the food production facility, they need to turn a 6,000 square foot room into an entirely different kitchen that's going to cook something entirely different from the previous line that was being cooked in here. That line may have been discontinued by the owner, or they may have expanded and moved into a bigger space. But now this is about once or twice a year we come into one of their facilities and we completely demolition what's existing, and then we start with our engineer documents and we build out the new space that goes to the new product owner in contract with that production facility. And that's about where we're at with our bigger clients. We have done some commercial work for PostNet in Colorado, some smaller remodels, but that is pretty much what keeps us busy every year.
That's awesome. In every business you have to have a service department, an operations department, and a growth department. I've learned this from different guests on my show. And I when I first started out, I was an operator and I didn't have all three of those departments. So I was always having to put my hat on to go into the department to fulfill a role. But once I implemented or inserted or found somebody who could be in charge of the service, the operations, and the growth, like growth, for example, having salesmen and estimators and people going out to generate new business for my company, it took me out of having to go be the salesman. So with that in mind, I'm curious, y'all are a newer company. Y'all been at this for 4 years. What's your org chart look like? What piece of the org chart needs to be filled to get you to the next level with that idea of service operations and growth? Like what part of your organization chart needs to be filled in order for your phone to start ringing more, for you to not have to be in the office, for you to become closer to becoming more of a owner instead of an operator?
Man, that's the $1 million question, Justin, that has been keeping my hamster wheels busy 24 hours a day for the last 3 years. So for 3 years, I've been working on building this company, right? My first year on my own, my next 2 years with Bobby Perez, but I've been self-employed for 3 years, and this is always, so the first thing I did, Justin, is I spent $6,000 on a marketing agency, and it did not work out. Okay, so we learned that after 6 months, that contract ended, and if we were not going to continue to pay thousands of dollars a month, we didn't even have a web landing page. So, for me, that piece that's missing for us is that sales, right? And right now, Bobby and I, we do all of this ourselves. We do the bookkeeping, we do the taxes, we do the sales, we do the operations, we do the permitting inside the city. So that is just putting a ceiling on us. So I totally understand where you're at right now. In order for you to get to the next level, for your company to literally get to the next level, there's this concept called the replacement ladder. And it's something that I had to go through. It's something that I teach some of my members. I have a mastermind called the Real Construction Owners Mastermind. And the replacement ladder is, first and foremost, we need a virtual assistant who can do
minutia, do our schedule, our calendar, answer our phones, that kind of stuff. After that, we need a production department, somebody who is on salary who can handle all production, and they need a SOP, like a macro micro, something to follow. So whenever this material needs to get ordered, they know exactly in a checklist what to do. Whenever this open ticket comes up, they know exactly what to do, what to say. It's called the replacement ladder, and also building what is known as a micro macro, or some people call it a SOP. And then from there, above that on the ladder, we need a sales department, an outbound sales department that's constantly getting us new opportunities, new appointments with our ideal client, getting you the opportunity to prepare estimates. Because how cool would it be if you were able to show up to 5 to 10 to 20 to 50 sales presentations every month that you didn't have to schedule, that somebody else scheduled for you? How cool would that be?
100%, man. Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, and
right? And then from there,
yeah, absolutely.
And then from there, then above the sale, after sales, you have to have an executive team that runs the company. So those are the four rungs inside the ladder that if you can't skip, you can't start at the top. You literally have to start at the first one, then go to the second, then the third, and then go to the fourth. Because once you get the fourth inserted into your company, Keith, that's when it becomes very fun. You literally just get to work on vision. You get to work on, being like the grandpa in the company that just pats people on their back and tells them good job. That's what I was hoping we would talk about today, because I know where you're at, brother. I've been there. Now, as far as how you're generating business, is it all word of mouth? Tell me the different ways that you are getting leads.
So, Justin, I'm just going to give you the truth, man. Okay. Real honestly, I'm getting my jobs because other contractors out here are trying to rob people.
Oh wow.
And then the oh shit moment happens, excuse my French, and they're like, well, now the city's not giving me a choice but to get a GC in here to help us. Because we wanted to circumvent the cost of a GC, and this guy said he could do it all, and we believed him, and that's how I got into this relationship with the new construction and residential, and that's also what happened and how I got into this relationship with Fresca Foods. And then we've serviced those people, and we've maintained healthy relationships for the last couple of years, so they keep calling us back. That is the only reason that we're staying busy, Justin.
Okay, very good. So you do quality work, and you do what's right. Now I'm curious, what do you think? If you could wave a magic wand and fix one thing in your business right now to generate more revenue, where would you wave that magic wand?
I would 100% wave my magic wand at the sales that was keeping my schedule booked all week long to go do another job walk and meet a new client.
Okay, so the business development component for you to generate new opportunities, new sit downs. Have you ever tried hiring more sales reps or outsourcing that? And how did it go? And
so just gonna bump back to the Haibu marketing that we paid for. We tried that.
Haibu's junk, man. That didn't work for me either, brother. I wasted like six or 10 grand or something.
Yeah, man. And I got like one phone call, and I made like $7,000 on some framing out of the $6,000 that I spent. Not a great ROI, not the worst, but I mean, yeah. Honestly, we haven't had the funding. Like, we have had enough work that we can pay our bills, be a legal licensed entity with our insurances, and then we can stay stable throughout the winter months while I've been sitting at home for 2 months. And my next project won't start till January 1st. So our net 30 payment terms, I probably won't see another invoice until February or March. So for us, it's just a matter of how do we spend this money? We have a little bit of money, right? We're getting down to $20,000. If we start hiring people, we're going to be out of money completely in the first 30 days.
Yeah. So one of the things that I always like to that we inserted into my business, and that a lot of other of my clients insert, they create a commission only system. A commission only system. There's a lot of people, Keith, right now hurting for business. There's a lot of people that are getting laid off. Tens of thousands of people getting laid off due to AI right now, and so we created a machine where we bring in new recruits. It's commission only. They get paid $50 per qualified appointment that they book for my construction company. And they start with their friends and family. And my best salespeople show up to those appointments. So Bob starts in the company. He gets paid, $500. He schedules 10 appointments, and we close 2 or 3 deals out of those 10 appointments for a few people in his family to paint the interior, to build a new fence, to install windows, and that right there is one of the most effective ways to generate revenue. Paying commission-based salesmen and then giving them a small base for every appointment that they schedule, but it's a draw towards their future commission. So in that example, Bob, we paid him $500, but he also gets 10%. So we sold, let's say, $30,000 worth of projects through Bob's appointments. Well, that's a $3,000 commission, but we've already paid him $500 because he scheduled those appointments. So once we get paid, we only owe him $2,500 more. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that's what, not just me. I've had many of my clients in Ohio, Louisiana, Oklahoma, different types of contractors that implemented this system. And I highly recommend you consider that, because it's tough, waiting for the big projects. There's a saying. The saying is, a tiger has to eat. A tiger has to eat. A tiger can't wait for the big kill once a month. It's still got to eat every day.
That's right. That's right. And that's owning a company. Right.
So in your business, I'm curious, what's a process in your business that you're proud of that you think other contractors could benefit from?
Well, I think the biggest thing I'm proud of is that our company has the capability of sitting down with our commercial clients or our residential clients and having a very educated conversation, understanding the needs of the client, and then finding ways for that project to move forward, creating the safety that they want in this high level of spending. Fresca Foods is going to spend $1 million. They just had a really poor experience with a bad contractor. That's going to get ready to go to court. The project still has to move forward because they're a corporation that depends on the construction to happen. So now they're going to take the risk, but we've been able to make a way to fund that project with our without getting into debt, right? So if you have $1 million project, you're a general contractor, you've got 2 options. You're going to need a few $100,000 to bankroll that job. You got a few $100,000 of payroll and of equipment that's going to have to be there to be installed. And this has been the hard part for us, because now we have to seek lending, and then we have to have more bills, and there has to be a very dialed in system of invoices coming in on time to make payments to the people that we owe now. So we've made a way for our clients to sit down and understand the legal parameters and the way construction works between a general contractor and a subcontractor, So we've set it up where our subcontractors are paid directly by Fresca, and what this does is this allows Fresca to be in control of liens against their building. If a general contractor has $100,000 of equipment ordered, sent to Fresca, and he doesn't pay his material provider, the material provider liens Fresca, not the subcontractor. Where the equipment lives, that's how people get burned a lot in Colorado. So how do we get the work done right before we release the money, and then without us having to go get the lending to take the $300,000 risk for you up front? We've been innovative in our sales approaches to solving the problems so that way the client feels safe, wants to move forward with spending $1 million, and then giving us the opportunity to complete that work. So now that client doesn't want to have the same structure all of the time. They would prefer to release the money to build your sky, knowing that if we give 50% of our contract to you, you're in possession of $500,000. It's going to get my project done before I'm billed and before I have any more headaches about this. And after it's done, we will resolve any retentions. So the innovation to take a project that's completely at risk, that's going into civil litigation, turn that project around and get that project done. I think that's the biggest thing that I'm proud of.
That's awesome, man. That sounds like a really great sales process that y'all dialed in. It also sounds a lot like I teach contractors how to win government contracts, federal contracts in their state and also nationwide. And it sounds like if you, just like what we do, as long as you have your Gantt chart set up, as long as you have your payment terms set up, and as long as you have ways to protect your tail during construction, that everything should run smoothly. Now, I'm curious, switching topics a little bit, technology and systems. Have you implemented AI into your company to generate new opportunities or to automate things for you and your partner?
Not yet. I have been experimenting with a system or a software you might be familiar with known as Apollo or Apollo.
Yeah.
So, Apollo, I'm experimenting with the free version to understand how to create your CRM, how to generate your automatic emails with the personalized message and make sure that's not landing in the junk email. Some of the things holding me back is all of my education and experience is in the building trades and not in software.
Sure. You're not a computer guy. It is what it is.
Right.
So what's the number one thing you wish you could automate in your business that you haven't figured out how yet?
The automated system that I haven't figured out that I need is cold contacts for emails, generating into appointments. I think
we should definitely collect. Keith, we should definitely connect offline. I own King Caller AI, and that's one of the ways that we found you. I have people show up on my calendar all the time because we have an AI business developer that generates appointments through email. We also have one through text, and we also have an AI agent that does it through phone calls. 600 calls per minute. And every day I have 2 to 5 appointments just to show up and do stuff like this. So I'd love to tell you more about that after the call. But I'm curious, before we move into a different topic, if you could have a system that worked 24/7 and never took a day off, what would you want it to do for you?
Man, that's a loaded question. There's so much that I could think of, but a system that worked 24 hours, 7 days a week for us, I would want lead generation happening, and then also some automatic shepherdizing of clients. So that way, we know who have we contacted, who has responded, who are we engaged in agreements with, and who are we going to try to reach back out to. So that those analytics, I guess, is what I'm defaulting to. The analytics of what those cold call conversions, I would want calls and emails going out because it's a numbers game. If you reach 1,000, you might book 10 clients. And if you book 10 clients, your company might do 2 or 3 million revenue a year.
Totally, 100%. We have a system that we built for my company. We also built it for several other contractors. It's an AI outbound email agent that does 27,000 emails a month. And it books on average, just depending on the industry, 3 to 5% booking rate. So it's phenomenal. Like, how many appointments can get booked once you have that system set up, just for people to have a conversation with you. Now, with where you're at right now in your business, you're obviously, you're growing the thing, you're building the thing, but in terms of your personal and your lifestyle, if you could design a perfect work week 2-3 years from now, what would that look like?
The vision I have for 3 years from now is that we will do at least a couple million a year and have a 12-month calendar scheduled year-round. And at that time, we want to hire superintendents and project managers. I am the licensed professional and the co-owner. I own the liability and I'm providing the jobs, but I need other staff to perform the work and to supervise projects, so that way I can visit jobs and put out fires when I need to, but I need to be at an office space and my job needs to be the client relationship. Totally. Working on key relationships, sharing vision, bringing in new talent. As a CEO, that's what we want to be doing. We don't want to be putting out fires. We don't want to have to be paying bills. We don't want to have to be ordering materials. We don't want to have to be dealing with upset customers. But in the beginning, we have to get enough revenue to hire the people for that replacement ladder, to be able to pay for the systems and AI automations to generate the leads. Like, we all have to start somewhere. Now, for a company that's listening, maybe they're doing 200,000-300,000, maybe they're a general contractor. Keith, you're further ahead than they are, and you should pat yourself on the back. You should feel very proud of yourself for where you're at right now in your life. Thanks,
if
man.
Somebody's listening, and what advice would you give that general contractor who's doing 200 to 300, maybe 400,000 or 500,000, that wants to get to $1 million plus a year like yourself?
You've got to stop being the person that does it all. That's the biggest bit of wisdom. The whole idea of a general contractor is you have a person that's not too busy who can monitor the quality of your project and maintain that schedule. The whole inherent purpose of a general contractor is that has to grow into the general contractor being the licensed entity that must also step away and allow other professionals to fulfill their project scope inside of your company. Otherwise, you'll never scale. You'll never have time for anybody who's going to invite you to a multi-million-dollar project. If you can't show, we have the ability to be at multiple projects this year, to complete all of those projects this year without a problem, without a person losing quality of their service from us. The only way that's possible is stepping away.
Amen. Delegate to elevate. You can't, from 0 to 1 million, you're going to be doing a lot of the work yourself. From 1 to 3 million, you started building a team. From 3 to 5 million, you've got a team and you've got SOPs and processes. From 5 to 10 plus million, you are the CEO leading with your heart. And that's what it takes to get to that 8-figure a year type of entity. Keith, with Build Your Sky, this has been a pleasure talking with you, man. I appreciate you so much for being on the Real Construction Owners podcast today, brother.
100%.
Hey, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, how can they reach out to you?
You can find our website at www.buildyoursky.com. You can leave your contact information, load your documents. We'll get back in touch with you. You can also reach me by phone at 720-843-8642.
Thank you so much, Keith.
Thank you, sir.